So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us James Lockwood and Patrick Rose of HotHouse Digital. So, guys, thank you so much for your time today. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, HotHouse Digital, what you do and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
So I'm Patrick. Myself and James, we're the co-founders of the business. We are a specialist search engine optimization agency. Born in Huddersfield, but we now live in Leeds. We focus on basically getting more organic traffic from Google for our clients. We cover the whole range of SEO services. So we do technical SEO, what's called on-page SEO, so improving the pages on your website.
Yes.
Thought leadership, blog content, whatever you want to call it, and digital PR. We do a few other bits and pieces as well, but I'm sure I'll let James. I'll leave some for James to talk you through.
Brilliant.
No, I got a great deal. I'm James Lockwood, also co-founder of the business. Like Patrick said, we used to be in Huddersfield. We had an office over there, and we're now recently moved over into Leeds. My background more in like the technical on-page SEO part of HotHouse, while Patrick does the content and digital PR predominantly.
Brilliant. And maybe if we start with just talking a little bit about your background, how you got into business and why this particular one.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I sort of got into it accidentally by applying for a graduate scheme. I didn't really understand what I was applying for, if I'm totally honest at the time, but it looked exciting. And I got into doing SEO that way. Went through working at a couple of different agencies doing that, and eventually met James. Again, I'll hand over to James to give you his own little backstory.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I kind of, after graduating from university, I did some marketing consultancy for a national accountancy company, and part of that was digital marketing. And at the time, I hadn't done a great deal of SEO. But yeah, I ended up having to do it because we got a penalty, and so the traffic on the site ground to a halt. Basically, the whole site got de-indexed, and that's when I learned pretty quickly about SEO and helped kind of overturn the penalty. And then I moved to a big digital marketing agency in Manchester and worked there for about 5 years, working through some of the biggest accounts in the country, really, from an SEO point of view, and that's when I joined.
I suppose in terms of how we went from that to then starting the business is that people just kept asking us to do SEO for them, kind of outside of the core work. We had a few bits and pieces, had a few questions from people asking for help, and eventually we sort of thought, oh, there's probably enough to start doing a bit of freelancing here, which is how we started. And sort of way back, the intention was never to start an SEO agency or a digital marketing agency. The intention was just to sort of be freelancers that knew each other and worked together and sort of shared ideas. But the more work we got in, and also I think the more we sort of realised that there were things that one of us was good at that maybe the other one wasn't. Yes. That's kind of what gave birth to HotHouse as an agency, and we've gone from there.
Brilliant. And as you've sort of grown so far, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen in growing your business?
I think there is. So I think one of the big challenges we've seen growing the business is that there is a lot of people think that they understand SEO.
Yes.
The reality is, I think they know a little bit about SEO.
Yeah.
And as the saying is, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And what we've kind of learned is that it's really important to sort of educate people and educate businesses and bring them on the journey with them, and sort of show them that what they know isn't necessarily wrong, but it's one part of a much bigger and perhaps more complicated picture. And actually, there's a lot of other stuff going on that you need to understand and take into account to be really successful in SEO. And I think at the times sort of early on where we didn't always communicate that, and actually as we've gone, okay, we need to tell the story better. We need to bring people along with us, and just work successfully with them. And I think that bit of a learning for us, and then figuring out how we do that and how we kind of bring people along on that journey with us.
Yeah, I think as well, obviously COVID-19 didn't really help. That was a pretty big seismic event in our business as well. We'd not been going long at that point. And yeah, that kind of didn't help in the short term. But I think a lot of good things have come out of that, obviously outside of the bad things, in the sense that like a lot of people are more happy to work remote and to kind of communicate and not kind of go all around the country. So I suppose there's an environmental benefit to that as well, for everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
It,
it's been
it,
tricky.
it's an interesting thing, is that we've got to establish a gap in knowledge for people then want and that's the educational piece, is very much about asking questions to establish a gap, and then we can be seen as the experts. But if we don't do that bit, then, as you said, there's lots of amateur SEO people out there. I know, I meet them all the time saying, well, I do my own SEO, and I think, well, there's a lot of people like yourselves I know have spent a career and a lot of knowledge, building a lot of knowledge to be able to do it professionally.
I think one of the other big challenges for us is making sure that obviously we stand out from that. There are the barriers to entry into SEO are very low. If you've got a laptop, you can set yourself up. It's not like it's like running a shop where you have to get a load of inventory and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. It's very easy to set yourself up. So obviously it's an attractive option for a lot of people. But it's obviously making clear that look, there is specialist knowledge. There are things that you need to be able to know and do in order to do this effectively, sort of time and time again. But obviously that's incumbent on us when we're speaking to people to make sure that we kind of make that clear and communicate that effectively.
That makes perfect sense. And as you've grown your business so far, what are some of the biggest learnings you have about growing a business?
I think one of the interesting ones is that there are opportunities in unexpected places.
Yeah.
I think you get a lot better at sort of going, okay, this one's going somewhere. We can work with this one. It's almost, I don't like the phrase sixth sense, because that makes it seem more mysterious, and it's probably just learning from experience. But you start to be able to figure out, okay, this one's going to go somewhere. There's something in this. Whereas at the start, I think that you can have your time wasted a little bit, and it's just about figuring out which camp that people are gonna kind of fall into. I guess one of the other learnings as well is that you kind of stick to what you're good at and know what you're good at and do that stuff. And I think that's true on a personal level and true on a business level as well. When we first started, we tried to sort of do all the digital marketing stuff that we didn't have as much background in, and I think we did a good job, but it was, at times it could be a little bit stressful. Whereas actually, we just want to do really good SEO for people. That's what we like doing. That's what we're good at doing, and that's where we want it to sit.
Yeah, I think quite often some people can just go straight for, having offering as many different services and kind of not learn to walk before they can run. I think it's quite easy when you first get in business to be scared about having enough revenue coming into the business. So the temptation is to say yes to things. And I think that's quite a kind of a key learning for us, is that not say yes to every opportunity, pick the right ones, like Patrick said, but also build a network of people around you that are those specialists in different areas. So whilst you're not a specialist in yourself, there's no point trying to have a go at it when someone can do better, and then they can be a referral partner essentially in the future.
Yeah.
You can work together more harmoniously rather than just trying to do everything yourself.
Yeah, completely agree. That niching is really important. This is what we do. Be really clear, because it helps our customers buy more easily, because
absolutely,
we're not confusing the message, are we? It's like, well, because the challenge, I think the brain can only hold 5 plus or minus 2 pieces of information at one time. So if we sort of bombard people with, well, we could do all of this, it's like, well, yeah, but I don't know what I want right now. So it's really important to be really clear on what we do, and therefore allow our customers to buy more effectively.
Yeah, and I think with something like SEO, when we're talking to a prospective client, we're talking to them about a lot, from stuff that's maybe quite like web development, which is obviously quite technical, through to this could be a good PR campaign for you. So you're already throwing an awful lot
Yeah.
at them, to kind of, making sure that it's kind of tight and well messaged and everything is
Yeah.
a pretty key part of that.
Makes absolute sense. And you're probably we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches are you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who have been the biggest influences on you guys?
It's an interesting what I say. Funnily enough, we were kind of talking about this, and we've had various people sort of in the business and around the business that have sort of helped us and guided us and given us a bit of a steer and things like that. But there's not. I don't know if there's been one person there that's been kind of consistent. I think what has been a consistent one for me is a group of guys that I used to work with, who are all sort of in and around other agencies now. And we talk about, some of them are still in SEO, some of them are in slightly different, but kind of still related fields. We talk about stuff a lot, we kind of share news, share ideas and things like that. And that's been a really good group. And I think there is a lot to be said for kind of a group of peers that you can trust and that you're kind of comfortable sharing ideas with and that kind of thing. I think I've found as well, though, that the agency community and the business community, especially in the North, is just, people are very supportive and they're surprisingly open and surprisingly willing to share lessons. It might be, we talk to certain people about a specific aspect of the business or a certain problem we're having, or even just like, can you recommend somebody good to help us out with this? And it's really good. I do think that relationships are everything, and relationships are key, and people are key, and that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think definitely, like I said, the agency network that people have, essentially competitor businesses to ourselves in a lot of senses. They're still like really open to sit down and have a chat, and even if it's on stuff like new business generation, lead generation, that's been something that people have been really open to us about, and go, we should maybe work with this company, or maybe we should try and do this, and this tactics really work well for us. And that's like really refreshing. I think before I set up a business, I probably thought it never happened between competitors. But and in our space, I'm guessing this won't be across every industry, but in our space, everyone's just really welcoming.
Great.
They've been really supportive and pushing us and nudging us in the right direction for certain things. So I think they're probably been the biggest influence.
Brilliant. It's bang on it, and I've worked with lots of businesses over time, and the thing I've come to be, it's always been a philosophy of mine, is that I've never met two businesses that exactly overlap what they do together. There's never exactly. There's always at least a bit of a gap there, and all of that means that for me, collaboration is always more valuable than competition. And the other thing, that when I joined my organisation, Action Coach, one of our vision is world abundance through business re-education. And for me, the key word there was abundance. There's more than enough for everybody. It's we don't have to try and be very scarce in our mentality when we think there are, our businesses can grow alongside the people in our mastermind groups and our agency groups that we're in, especially and probably because we help each other than we don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think clients and people that might potentially want to work with you, they don't want to work with people that are sort of defensive or combative or something like that. People want to work with people they get on with and people they like. And but I agree. I think the idea of creating abundance through networks is true, because again, going back to what I was saying about, you spot those opportunities or you find those opportunities that you might not otherwise. That's how those opportunities come about. And even if it leads you somewhere quite unexpected, they've got the power to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you? I love to collect quotes and sayings. Have you got any favourite quotes or sayings you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
Don't let the tail wag the dog is something that I really quite like. I think especially in digital marketing, I think if you're like buying a car, you kind of know a lot more about what you want and what you don't want. With SEO, a lot of people, there's such a big knowledge gap that people don't really know what they want, but sometimes they feel like they need to give a brief, a detailed brief, because that's for other marketing channels you typically would need. And obviously you don't want to admit to a certain extent sometimes that you're not 100% sure. what you want. And I think we had dealings with loads of different great people, and we're really keen on educating people and kind of reverse engineering briefs. And I think that saying is particularly poignant in that sense, is that quite often you can be like, oh, this is the objective, we need to do this, we need to do this. It's very like granular SEO activities because it's what they've read online, or it's through what they've, a friend, another marketing director has communicated to them. But when we actually boil it down and go, actually, what are you really looking to achieve, and what is your business looking to achieve, then we reverse engineer a strategy and approach for that. And I think that saying's a kind of good way of kind of emphasizing that.
Bang on. Use the car analogy. You don't take your car to the garage and tell the mechanics how you want them to change the air filter. You just let them do it, don't you? And it's, I just want the car better, and it makes sense. And I hopefully today we, obviously you guys are clearly experts in what you do, and it will hopefully be an education for future clients that just let you get on, tell them what you want to achieve in your business and let you get on and achieve it for them. Is absolutely bang on. I'm keen to know what you guys have learned about yourself throughout your journey so far.
I think back at the start, and this will probably surprise James, is that I think I thought I could do everything and do it all. Kind of, I guess, going back to what I said about, we tried to build an agency to do everything. Is like I sort of thought I myself could do a lot, and the shock horror, there are things that I'm less good at. Probably hearing that won't surprise James or my parents or my wife or anybody else that knows me. But I think just the realization that there are people that can do a really good job, and I suppose it goes back to what James was just saying. Sometimes you just got to sort of let them get on with it and let them pick up with their expertise and run with it, and actually the outcome will be much better than it would be if I tried to kind of keep going and keep going through it myself.
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, personally, I suppose not always striving for perfection is something that I've learned, because I think a lot of people can get obsessed with everything being perfect and being right. I was definitely one of those things, and that's not always realistic, and that's not always manageable. And I think there's nothing wrong with doing a very good job. That's what people want. Not everyone insists on a perfect job, because that's not realistic and that's not obtainable. You don't have that. That's the too high a standard, and I think that thing I've learned about myself is not. Nothing ever is ever perfect, and it can stop you from doing things if you kind of only start things thinking it has to be.
Yeah. It's that very, very sound learning. It's very inefficient to strive for perfection. Very inefficient and very unprofitable. Consequently, it's it's I mean, I think I personally love the sort of Pareto 80-20 rule that 80% of the value is probably delivered by 20% of the effort, and if you want the final 20%, you've got to quadruple the effort, and it's that's that's probably not what our customers are paying us for. But if we do, then that's where, as I say, a lot of the efficiency and therefore a lot of the profit could disappear. So it's a very, very sound learning and advice, I'd suggest. And so looking forward, guys, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think that, I mean, at the moment, we're in a very fortunate position. Our business is growing both in terms of our revenue and our team, which is really exciting. I think obviously making sure that we enable those people to do the best job that they can do is a challenge for us. I mean, narrowly in the world of SEO, Google continues to innovate and change, and obviously that obliges us to innovate and change to make sure that we're keeping pace with that and that we're offering the best service to clients in that. And then probably beyond that is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, AI is a big challenge. I think it's a fantastic tool, and I think we'll make the most of it. But obviously, it's understanding where that's going to go and realizing the full potential of it, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, as an agency in the digital marketing world, there's a lot of churn in terms of recruitment, in terms of keeping people. And I think the biggest challenge we'll have in terms of growth and getting better is keeping great people. It's something that Obviously, people have got their own ambitions, and it's trying to match them with what we're doing as business. It's not always going to work out. People will want to move quicker than we're moving, or people will want to move slower than we're moving. So it's kind of making the right culture where people can feel like they're at the pace, or they can learn at the pace that we're growing, and vice versa, and we give them opportunities to professionally and personally develop. And then getting that culture right and getting that nailed down and kind of really obvious to people, and people get bought in, is kind of a big challenge in terms of keeping the right people.
Yeah, we see that a lot across industries everywhere, is that and that recruiting and retaining great people is what probably the number one, if not the top two or three challenges that most businesses face. And the thing that came to mind for me was that most businesses will have a marketing budget to attract and retain great customers. But my proposition is we need probably the same. We need an employee budget to attract and attract great employees, and we and vision, mission, and culture come very strongly, or vision, values, and purpose, which way you look at those things, I think are really key in any organization, because people, whether they're clients or employees, need to know where we're going and what's important to us, so they can align to that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, it's interesting being in Leeds because there's a lot more people to recruit. There's a lot more talent around, but you can't deny the fact there's a lot more competitors around, a lot more other agencies as well. So kind of there's more talent to attract. But having done that, you're absolutely right in that it's so important to then make sure that we retain that, and that people don't want to look elsewhere.
Yeah, that's just like part one of the job, isn't it? To get them in through the door, and then part two is making sure it works with clients and making sure it works personally for themselves.
Yeah, we it is actually the actual coach process that we follow for helping people recruit is quite significantly different. It's along the lines we've just talked about. Is that what we find traditional recruitment is most people recruit on, let's get this right, recruit on experience, but we sack on attitude. So our proposition is, why don't, with a base level of qualification or experience, I appreciate. I always say, if I have a brain surgeon, I like him to be reasonably well qualified, not just really enthusiastic to get stuck in. But that aside, at a base level, then let's focus on the recruitment process, recruiting the people that really love who we are, what we do specifically, and want to be part of our team. Because those are the ones that will stay and will want to do things our way and want to be part of a team. If the challenge is if we've got a poor attitude, then we'll typically want to do it our way and stay where we are. So I find it really key.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think as well, there's some really good people out there, but for whatever reason, they just wouldn't be a good fit for us. And it's not to malign them or the organisation they work for. There's nothing wrong with that. It's I don't know, different worldview or something like that, or how you look at it. But their professional skill is great. They're just not quite there in terms of fit for us.
I always say, let's get the match right. And when I help people recruit, I say, look, before you go to each stage, and we actually make the process. We make the process quite difficult for people to come on board, so that we know we're getting people that really want to come on board, if that makes sense. And part of it, say, look, before you go to the next stage, please ask all the questions you need to be really sure this is the job and this is the organization you want to be part of, because it's not that difficult to get a job. But if you don't get the right job for you, then within 3 months, either you're unhappy, your employer's unhappy, or both.
Yeah.
And that's to nobody's benefit. So let's get every question we need answered. Let's get all the information we need to be able to make an informed decision about, do I want to be on this team for the long term? Because that's to everybody's benefit, I think. And I'm keen to know what advice you'd give to anybody that was thinking of going into business right now.
I know for me, I don't know. I think a lot of people, myself included, have always wanted to own my own business and run one. Is to kind of like not wait for the perfect conditions for it to happen, because I think people sometimes are like, oh well, when I've done this, I can do this. I'll do it then, or maybe it's this, I'll do it then, or I like to be here before doing that. And sometimes that doesn't always, that situation may never all arrive, and it might not be perfect. So when there's an opportunity to do it, then to take that opportunity rather than thinking, yeah, but it would be better if I waited until X, or I waited until Y, or I did X first or Y first. Yeah, just if you've got the opportunity, just go for it and try and learn as much as you can from it.
Yeah, brilliant. Completely agree. And anything you done, Patrick?
I find this quite a tough question because I think in some ways it's you can't step in the same river twice, and how transferable is my experience to other people. I think what I would say though is that going back to what I was said about relationships being key. I struggle to imagine the business you would start that wouldn't hinge on relationships or wouldn't hinge on kind of whoever it is, whether it's a relationship with your family as you do something potentially quite risky, the relationships with the people that might be your clients or your employees, your suppliers, whoever it is. You'll never suffer from having a good relationship with somebody. So as a general bit of advice, it would be that, and just keep an eye on that, really.
Brilliant. And if you guys started again, is there anything significant you think you might do differently?
We'll probably worry less, I think.
Yeah.
Try and worry a bit less about stuff. I think this thing, looking back, where we sort of agonized over stuff and probably shouldn't have done it at time and brain power that it needn't have done. But of course, sometimes things go well because you've worried about it, and that's kind of way of prepping for it. So I don't know. It's a difficult one, but yeah, worry a bit less.
I think I think there's a small amount of worry that can be useful. But too many of us do a big amount of worry. And one thing I've come to find, and for myself and for people I work with, is acknowledge it as being there. It's a tap on the shoulder. It's saying, something inside is saying, beware. That's great. Thank you very much. I will beware, but the rest of you can do one. Because I personally believe that very few people actually are energized and more active through excessive worry or stress. I don't believe it to be true, and I think so that if we can minimize it, we could be more effective.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's one of those things where it's a fine balance, isn't it? If you never worried at all, you probably wouldn't survive very long. But obviously, if you're constantly crippled by worry, you're never going to do anything.
Absolutely. So. A friend of mine, he's got a really interesting way of looking at it, because he said he often says, if I was to tell you right now that every decision you made and every action you take was going to be perfectly successful in the future, if I told you that right now, you'd probably think I was a bit foolish.
Yeah,
100%. But worry is typically thinking every decision we make and actually take in the future is actually not going to work. And therefore it's acknowledging that there's a value to it, but it's a lot less than probably the ingredients we give to it. And
also imagine how boring life would be if you knew that. And there is something to be said for a challenge and
absolutely. And most learning is done through challenge rather than through success. More from things that go wrong than we do things that go right, typically because we need to analyze them. So it's worth to do. And finally, guys, what would be the best advice you give an 18-year-old you if you're able to go back in time and do that?
That's a really good question. I think, I don't know. I think obviously because of the age, you become more self-conscious, really, aren't you? And I think that's can be a big barrier to doing what you want to do. I don't know. I think learning how important relationships are in terms of in the business world and networking and things like that. I'd probably say around doing more networking, be open, to meeting as many new people as you can, because that's something that can open so many doors, and quite quickly as well. And like Patrick said, the relationship's so important. You could be in one situation and in your network, you've got X, Y, and Z that can be really supportive and kind of unlock some potential there. So I think at 18, because you're probably more self-conscious, I'd say probably the best opportunity to do it would be then. Really great skills that you can learn from young age.
Great advice.
I think for me, it's probably a bit of a glib, get up, get dressed, get on with it. Because at 18, I was probably lying in my hall of residence watching rubbish on television. But there is something to be said for getting on with stuff and getting stuff done. And I think going back to what James was saying about not letting perfect be the enemy of good is kind of, I think, I'm a terrible one for having ideas that I don't then follow through on. But actually, one idea actualized is probably worth 20 conceptualized. So just get on with it and do it,
100%.
do that idea and make it work in the real world.
I completely, and I would agree with both of those statements. And yeah, there's lots of great ideas out there, but it's only the ideas that we actually bring to fruition that have any real value. And it's understanding that, isn't it? But it's understanding the team that we need, because the person with the ideas isn't often the person that's best at implementing those ideas. And so it's building teams that can make these things happen.
Maybe that's the advice I should give: is find a good actualizer of ideas.
Great, yeah, and it feels like you've got some combination there between you that and it's great. I often see the most effective teams are ones when there is differences between the two partners, if that makes sense, and it's celebrating those differences. It typically creates a healthy friction, which is fine, but it's a healthy friction because
we've had friction every now and again.
No, but it's great, and I see it as it's valuable, because without that, friction is energy, so energy is cool. So it's as long as it's so that's great. Well, guys, it's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, and for anyone that's watching that would like to know more about the value of a specialist SEO rather than trying to do it by themselves. And be amateurs, or just want to know more about what you do in general, or even potentially join you, what would be the best way to contact you or the company?
They can email me, so it's patrick.rose@hothousedigital.co.uk.
Brilliant, wonderful. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by again another sort of 6-12 months and just see the next phase of development. But for now, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.